So unless you have somehow forgotten, you will know that Manchester United beats Manchester City 2-1 at the weekend. And yesterday's video was all about the team performance and how, as a unit, Manchester United played really well. However, there were also some individuals within that unit that really shone and really performed to a high level. And to be honest, the most requested video from that video yesterday was breaking down Manuel Ugarte's performance against Manchester City. So that is exactly what we are going to be doing today. But before we get into it, if you guys could quickly subscribe to the channel, please. We are so close to 45,000. If you could subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. And then once you guys have done that, we're going to break down Ugarte's performance in the derby. Now, when I watched Ugarte's performance live, like a lot of you guys, I was really impressed by a lot of the work he done. When I went back and watched it again afterwards, I actually found that a lot of the work he done was incredibly basic, but I almost think that's what's so good about the performance. He really felt like he mastered the basics of a midfielder in the Premier League. He'd done a lot of really safe, simple work, but it was incredibly effective. And really, he was the heartbeat of the Manchester United team. He was literally at the centre of everything that Manchester United looked to do. He was the player that we were always looking for when we were in a spot of bother. And that sort of started in the first phase, it continued into the middle phase, and we also saw it defensively as well. Particularly though, we'll want to focus initially on the first phase, because there were situations where Manchester City looked to be quite aggressive. They were looking to squeeze us quite high and apply pressure to the ball to try and stop us playing out from the back. In these moments, I thought Ugarte showed some real quality, just being calm. I think we associate him with being quite hot-headed and all over the place and quite erratic, bursting about the pitch into tackles. But actually on the ball, he was really calm, really controlled, really measured. He completed pretty much all of his passes, and he was that calming presence that we needed in the first phase. And I think the reason why he was able to be so calm on the ball was because he did some good work before he actually received the pass. His scanning in particular meant that when he did receive the ball, he had already looked over his shoulder, so he knew where the Manchester City player was. So as he received the ball, he was sort of knew where he needed to take his first touch. And then he just needs to find a spare man. And I think this is what he done really well in the first phase. He just found the spare player somewhere for Manchester United. So he's going to take a safe first touch away from the opposition. And then he might find a spare wing back. It might be perhaps the inside forward was the spare man. Or maybe even sometimes you've got to go backwards and it's actually going to be Onana that you're passing to. But it was something that we saw throughout the game. In situations like this, Ugarte is going to pick the ball up. You can see he is by far our deepest midfielder in a situation like this. And as he picks the ball up and sort of looks around, you can see there's not really too many options for him. Maguire, Lisandro Martinez, De Ligt, Dalot, they are all marked. There is no one that he can really play to. However, there is going to be a free man somewhere, and sometimes, like I said, it's going to be a goalkeeper. You've got to move the ball backwards. It's not particularly exciting football. It's not even that impressive, but it is important for keeping the ball. Something that Manchester United have struggled with over the past few seasons is in these moments, assessing the situation, realising where your teammates are, and also realising where the spare man is. Again, here, he can't really go to Bruno Fernandes, he can't go to Maguire, he can't go to Dalot. Where's the spare man? Well, it could be Onana, but also, on this occasion, it could be Lisandro Martinez. Again, there's nothing mightily impressive here, but it is good just to keep the ball for your team. The more impressive work in this area actually happened in this moment here, about 33 minutes into the game. Lisandro Martinez has the ball, and what we can see is that he's sort of in, I wouldn't say he's in trouble, but he's in a spot of bother. There isn't really a passing option for him. He can't play wide to Bruno Fernandes because Bernardo Silva is there. At the moment, he can't go to Ugarte and he can't go to Harry Maguire. There's nothing really for Lisandro Martinez to do here. He could go backwards towards Onana, but in this moment, we don't want to play backwards. We want to try and progress where we can. Ugarte takes it on his shoulders to be the problem solver here. First of all, he has a quick scan. He checks his shoulder to the right, and then he checks his shoulder to the left to assess the situation, to paint a picture in his head of where all the players are. Then what he does is he helps Lisandro Martinez by darting towards the ball. He quickly changes the pace, he quickly moves towards Lisandro Martinez, and what this does is it draws the two Manchester City players in. This means then that with a little bit of quality on the ball, you know, Lisandro Martinez into Ugarte, Ugarte can then flick this ball round the corner. Now again, to a lot of people, this is going to look like really basic play, but I tell you what, we have not had a midfielder that does that regularly for a long time in the Manchester United midfield. We didn't see it an awful lot in this game, but if he can do that on a more regular basis, he could become absolutely crucial in the first phase for United. I still don't think he's press resistant, but in terms of finding the spare man, he did a great job. Now, as Manchester United actually moved the ball a little bit further forward, Ugarte's job kind of stayed the same. He still wasn't particularly adventurous, he wasn't splitting lines with his passing, he wasn't dropping a shoulder and turning past players, but again, he'd done a really good job of retaining possession and looking to find the free man. You can see it in his pass map. It's not particularly progressive. In fact, it is very sideways based. You know, he's playing a lot of lateral football here, shifting the ball side to side. But in a way, this is what Manchester United needed. I think there are certain games where that will be frustrating because we need to probe through the lines a little bit more. But in this particular match, when you're playing a side like Manchester City, who are so good on the ball, when you get a moment on the ball, it's important to try and keep it for your team. First of all, to give yourself a breather. You know, defensively, it's hard covering a lot of ground. So when you get the ball, keep it. And Ugarte did that really well. But what he also did well is allowed us to attack because of his sideways passing. You see, what United are really good at the moment is progressing the ball out wide. In the middle of the pitch, we find it a little bit difficult still. It's a little bit tricky, a little bit cagey in those areas. Out wide, we have some success. And this is where Ugarte was good. For example, we would try and probe down the left-hand side, have a look and see, okay, we can't really work the ball down this side on this occasion because there's a lot of City players over here. There's not really that pass to go through. However, if there's a lot of City players on this side of the pitch, it means there's going to be more space on the other side. And this is where Ugarte was good. He would simply pick the ball up, have a look over at the far side and work the ball over there and allow us to attack. Again, we're going to go through some of these passes and it doesn't look like particularly incredible work, to be honest, but it is useful. It is useful for what the team is trying to do. Again, very much in the centre of it all, literally right in the middle of the Manchester United structure. Just picking the ball up in these situations, having a look up, seeing that, quite frankly, there's too many Manchester City players there. You can't physically pass through the middle. You can't go through that. So what you need to do is try and find a space somewhere else, and he's going to do that and allow us to move a little bit wider, and now we'll go attack over there. Again, what Ugarte is doing here is incredibly basic, but you guys wanted the breakdown of his performance, and it was this. It was him mastering the basics of football, taking a touch and moving the ball to a space somewhere else. Again here, he can't really play progressively, he can't play through the lines, it's quite congested in there, it's difficult to play through the middle, so all he does is he switches it to the other side and lets us attack down this way instead. Again, right in the middle of the Manchester United structure, literally the heartbeat of everything that we were looking to do. But again, playing through the middle is difficult. There's a lot of Manchester City players here. So all he's going to do is take his time and flip the switch out to the other side. And again, if we are going back to our video from yesterday, looking at how Manchester United looked to progress the ball in the game, a lot of it was with wide play. So Ugarte taking safe touches in these areas, spinning away from the opposition, before then moving the ball out wide, away from these City players. It may have been basic, but it was actually really effective to the way that we were trying to play. Now, whilst on the ball, Ugarte may have been all about trying to work the ball into wider areas, defensively it was quite the opposite. Ugarte was very much focused on defending the middle of the pitch. You can see this in his defensive actions. He is defending in the centre. He doesn't really want to be dragged out wide into these big open spaces. He wants to sit in the middle. Why does he want to sit in the middle? Well, because it's a smaller space to try and dominate. Out wide it can get quite stretched, the gaps are quite big. In the middle of the pitch, players are a lot closer to each other, both in terms of the Manchester United players, but also the Manchester City players. This means, from a defensive point of view, it's much easier for Ugarte to sort of jump from player to player, kind of jump from tackle to tackle, snapping into these positions. This was something we spoke about a lot when he was signing for the club and we were scouting him. We were saying he's not a player which dominates big spaces, but if you put him in small spaces, he's got a real snap and intensity and tenacity to the way that he plays, jumping in these positions, and this is where I think he was really good in this game. City would sort of progress the ball out wide, with Nunes in particular having a bit of space, but then what City wanted to do ultimately was try and come back inside the pitch. This is when Ugarte really came to life, because City would go inside, Ugarte would snap into the tackle, and then from a transitional point of view, United have got some players in some great positions here. You've got Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes who could carry the ball forward, you've got Ahmad who's a great ball carrier, but also Rasmus Højlund who can go in behind as well. And we know that City struggle with the defensive transition, so having Ugarte who can kind of set up those positions and those situations was actually perfect for us, and I think it really captured what he's good at from a defensive point of view. It's in situations like this, the ball goes into the middle, and again, this is a relatively small space for Ugarte to cover, and jumping over these gaps is just perfect for the way he wants to play. He doesn't quite get there on the first tackle, but the pass goes through. But again, he reacts and he's able to jump into that next challenge. And this was just something that he kept doing all game long. In situations like this, initially he's on Phil Foden here, he's kind of chilling in his position, he's containing in the mid block, but eventually City are going to try and probe in this area here. But Ugarte's alert to it. He's alert to it, he wins the tackle. And he just kept doing it in this game. Again, here, on Phil Foden in this position, this is very much the man that currently he is connected to. He is on Phil Foden. However, he recognises the danger. As this ball is kind of played across, you can see him shift. He changes his balance. And this is what I'm talking about. Almost jumping from tackle to tackle, player to player. He's on Phil Foden, but then he's going to jump to Kevin De Bruyne and get involved over there. And again, you guessed it, he wins the ball, he steps in, he intercepts. And again, Manchester United can really transition from it, really step forward. Again, in a situation like this, he's on Phil Foden. Phil Foden is very much his man. But as the picture changes, he is able to get out and change position. The ball goes into midfield, and again, Ugarte is there, combative, wins the ball, and United can now transition. And I tell you, he just kept doing this. He kept doing this. Again, he's on Phil Foden initially. Foden is the danger man, so he picks him up. But as the ball moves, as the picture changes, Ugarte changes. And again, jumps out of midfield, gets to the ball, applies pressure. He doesn't actually quite win it on this occasion, but his presence alone is enough to distract Gundogan. And again, the result, Bruno Fernandes gets the ball, and we can transition from here. There's a massive space in midfield there. Bruno Fernandes can carry the ball forward. Rasmus Højlund might spin in behind. Ahmad might carry the ball. Whatever. But it's all because of Ugarte's ability to win the ball in the middle of the pitch. So do I think that Ugarte did anything particularly amazing in this game? No, but he put in a proper 7 or 8 out of 10 performance. And if he can do that on a regular basis, reliably, week in, week out, he will be a really useful player for Manchester United. I think he still needs work. Right, I think defensively he fouls a little bit too much at times, right? He kind of bundles players over, which might be entertaining, but it's not great for what you're trying to do. I think playing in a double pivot certainly helps him. I think Ruben Amorim is getting more out of him than what we may have seen under Erik ten Hag. On the ball, is he perfect? No, I still don't think he's press resistant, and he needs to be a bit more progressive at times, because the sideways is all well and good, but you've got to progress sometimes. But in terms of this particular match, we didn't need that from him. We knew that the space was going to be out wide. That was the area that we could attack. So therefore, the job for our midfielder was to work the ball into those wider positions with simple ball retention and ball cycling. And I tell you what, Ugarte did exactly that. So in terms of what his job description was for this particular game, I think he done a near perfect job, which is why he deserves a lot of credit. And so does Ruben Amorim for getting this from his performance. So I think it's a really good day for Ugarte. I think he played really well. Hopefully that continues as he kind of adapts to Ruben Amorim, but also the new team, the new league, all of that stuff. Hopefully he just keeps getting better and better. In terms of for today's video, we finished there. Ugarte did his job. It was good to see. Now it's on to the next one. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.